How's it going, everyone? The 1MFP here. I hope you're all doing great today. You know why I'm here. Breach is out, 21 Pilots' latest album, the album that's supposed to conclude the story, the whole narrative as it relates to Blurryface, Trench, Dima, Nico, the Bishops. That whole storyline is supposedly coming to an end with this album. And it feels a little surreal, to be honest. It's been 1 year since we got Clancy, and 21 Pilots generally take at least 2 years to drop an album. I think generally it's been like a 3-year cycle. So to be able to listen to this album just 1 year after we got to listen to Clancy, I feel very privileged, I feel very spoiled, and I can't wait to see what this album has in store. So I'm not going to delay that any longer. I'm going to jump right into this album. This is Breach, song number 1, City Walls. One of the longer introductory tracks. I see it's about 5.5 minutes, a little under 5.5 minutes. We haven't had a song that long start a 21 Pilots album in quite some time, I would think. Generally, they go for a fast, hard-hitting track with track 1 to get you into it, and it's generally not as long as this. You would have to go back to like their early albums to get something like that. I'm thinking like Implicit Demand for Proof. Technically Regional at Best starts with Guns for Hand, so that's a bit longer, but other than that, Ode to Sleep off of Vessel, that's also a bit longer. So you have to go to their early albums to really have a song this long start off the album. So I'm really intrigued to see what they do here with this one. All right, here we go. Super excited for this. Let's go. Nice little guitar there. I like the riff.
Square up with me, I can take you right on the left. Pair up with me, I'ma take you right to the chest. Warm path etched in the surface. Lines on together, take the moving quiet like a serpent. Now they're waiting on me. It might be the first we've reached. Now move it up, it's a breach. I can come to you, tell me when. Pair up with me, I can run on you. In the end, I write a promise in pencil on my loyalties and pen. Use a mistake as a crooked stencil, then we trace it back again. From the mainland to the island of violence, it was the same plan for a while. Decided to send me up and break you out of your seat. You see, in a city with no exits, there is not a retreat. I'm wondering what you thought would happen, who you thought I would be.
Ooh, this is beautiful. Slow it down. Oh. Faith? Was that Heavy Dirty Soul? There's an infestation. Yeah, that was Heavy Dirty Soul there at the end, just silently playing in the background. Huh, very interesting. We're getting a lot of callbacks, I feel, to older material. I felt that way when I listened to The Contract and Drum Show. And maybe I'll just address those once we actually get to those songs, because I haven't really, filmed the reaction for those. But I have listened to those two songs quite a bit, and I do have some thoughts, so I'll share those with you once we get to those songs. But yeah, definitely a lot of callbacks here. Of course, the obvious one, Holding On To You with Entertain My Faith. Aside from that one, there was mention of the Island of Violence, which comes from Migraine, I want to say, behind his eyelids, or a island of violence. And at the end of the day, this whole concept, this Dima thing, it's his attempt to conceptualize the inner happenings of his mind into a world that is tangible for us, that we can navigate with him. And I mean, that's what he's doing with the music, but I would assume that he's created it for himself, so that he could understand how to navigate it as well. I mean, he says it himself. He's created this world to feel some control. But before I get lost on a tangent, the point is there's a lot of callbacks to past lyrics in this song. And, of course, thematically, it's a lot more in depth. So let's just jump right into the lyrics of this song and kind of digest this a little more. Square up with me, I could take your right, throw a left, pair up with me, I'ma take you right to the chest. Warpath etched in the surface, lines of yellow tape, they're moving quiet like a serpentine in a formation. So the first thing that caught my attention about those lines was warpath etched in the surface. And, I noticed that the Digital Remains version of this album has Drag Path as the last song. Now, if you go back to the Digital Remains of the last album, Clancy, you had this page that had the lyrics to a song called Drag Path, which hadn't been released at that point in time. And it was kind of hard to read the lyrics on that page, but this is one of the ones that really stood out. I don't know if it said Warpath etched in the surface, but it definitely said etched in the surface. But yeah, it's the first thing that caught my attention there. Warpath etched in the surface. Lines of yellow tape. So I'm assuming there he's referring to the Banditos, who in the lore, they're the group that are trying to save him from Dima, trying to save him from this place where he feels isolated and controlled and restricted. So yeah, whether we're talking about the music video or the song, we are really picking up right where we left off with Clancy. Buddy, that's my team, pretty impatient. Now they're waiting on me. It might be the furthest we've reached. Now move it up, it's a breach. So I feel like we're kind of starting where we started with Trench in a way. Well, no, not so much actually. I'm thinking of Levitate. We started with Jumpsuit and Trench, but then we went into Levitate, and we had Tyler coming from a place of confidence and borderline arrogance. I won't even say borderline. It really was arrogant. He's taunting the bishops, and somewhere in the back of his mind, he knows that's probably not the best thing to do, which, that part of his mind, you could argue, is Nico. It is Blurryface. It is his fears getting in the way of progress. You could make that argument. But nevertheless, the point is, it sounds like he's coming from a similar place here. The Banditos, that's his team. He knows they've got his back, and he feels like he's the closest he's ever been to actually breaking the cycle here. So let's move on and see what happens from there. I'll just skip the chorus for now, and we'll go straight to verse 2, and I'll speak on the chorus after this verse. Square up with me, I could come to you, tell me when, pair up with me, I can run on you. In the end, I write a promise in pencil, but my loyalty's in pen. That's a beautiful line. So yeah, he writes a promise in pencil. It's not something he's willing to commit to. It's something he might just erase and choose to take a different path. Use a mistake as a crooked stencil. That's also a cool line. Yeah, the way I take that is he kind of retravels the paths he once took where he did make mistakes. And it's going to be interesting to see exactly what he means by that. From the mainland to the island of violence, it was always the same plan for a while, decided to send me up and rip you out of your seat. The way I interpret that is he's retraveling these paths that he knows lead to a bit of a dead end and, obstacles, because he wants to confront those obstacles and tear them down. I'll take us back to Morph. He doesn't want to find a way around it. He doesn't want to find a way above or beneath or he's not trying to avoid those obstacles. He's trying to run straight through his tormentor. So I think with that line there, we're kind of getting a callback to that. You see me in a city with no entrance. There is not a retreat. I'm wondering what you thought would happen, who you thought I would be. Was this a sideswipe, or did you picture this in a dream? Buckle down. This is possibly the furthest we've reached. Now move it up. Move it up. It's a breach. We're getting that rebellious mindset. He's going to escape no matter what. He's going to escape that place, Dima, this, restrictive environment that doesn't allow him to express himself and be himself. As much as they'll try and trap him, he'll always find a way out, whether there's a door or not, whether there's an entrance, whatever. He's going to find a way to breach these walls. And I'll get into that chorus. I wonder where you are. I wanted you to show me the way around the city walls, the way on through. I wonder where you are. I wanted you to show me. But now the night has fallen, abandoned by the sun. So, at this stage in the song and at this stage in the story, it feels like he's found his support system to be that source of motivation and inspiration for him to break on through and, really get close to breaking the cycle. Coming into this chorus, and we know where we're going with the outro as well, with Entertain My Faith, it feels like he's speaking to that same struggle you could hear him speaking on way back on, the self-titled album and Vessel and Regional at Best as well, or even on his solo demos on No Fun Intended. There's a lot of talk of him wanting to lean on his faith, but also feeling like that may be in vain. Also feeling like it's not helping him as much as he would like or as much as he feels he needs. And further to that, it may actually be contributing to some of those fears and those feelings of guilt that also make him feel trapped. And on that note, I'll bring us into the bridge. My smile wraps around my head, splitting it into, I don't have a clue how I could keep the top half glued. And that repeats itself. It just feels like there's this true sense of guilt anytime he feels happy. It kind of just splits the path where on one hand he could keep going down that path and experience the happiness, but he also kind of feels guilty. He doesn't know if what he's doing is right. He doesn't know if what he's doing will actually lead down a path that he's going to be proud of in the end. And it does really seem like the optics are a significant part of it. The optics of what? Well, that remains to be discussed perhaps further down in the album, but honestly, it seems like it's a lot of different things, right? There is part of him that cares about what the fears have to say. There is part of him that cares that, that support system, the Banditos, could see him in a different light. His faith as well. How does his identity tie into that? So honestly, the whole optics thing is a really loaded topic. Going to that outro, entertain my faith, this is the last time. Entertain my faith, this is the last time that I try. Address my soul, entertain my faith, this is the last time I try. So yeah, to me, of course, call back to Holding On to You. If we go to that song, the way I hear it, it really is about him leaning on to his faith as a source of strength. He's understanding of the power that his faith has on his perception, sounding down the mountain range of my left side brain, twisting the kaleidoscope behind both my eyes. To me, it just kind of sounds like he feels like his thoughts aren't as much his as he would like to think, and it's a little bit more complicated than that. So he's just learned to trust the process. He's going to hold on to his faith. Somewhere down the road, when he is, facing those obstacles, something good awaits him beyond those obstacles. But here in City Walls, it's kind of like he wants to take back some of that power and that control, which kind of is ironic considering he's created this world for a sense of control. And now with this album, he's kind of trying to put a bow on it, conclude this story. So yeah, it's kind of early to really tell, but the sense I get is he feels like in trying to control, he's actually giving more power to the fears to control him. So now he kind of has to destroy what he's built in order to allow for more freedom, if that makes sense, to allow for more things to have influence. But based on this outro, it seems like he's still not fully sure if that's the way to go. So he's kind of almost using it as a threat. So we'll see what happens. Next song is RAWFEAR, which, I mean, it's an interesting title. This one caught my attention the moment I saw the track list. And I mean, it's in all caps too, which is rather weird considering nothing else is. But yeah, let's jump right into it.
You've got my fears, they're all regulars. Wait, who's the new kid? You know what kills me, not getting stronger. Now I can't seem to sit still any longer. Raw fear moves me, sounds of empty ooze. I could build a tower with the times I was pretending. Turning my credits to immunity, but I'll never see the ending. What's the matter? Isn't helping you go. Will stop yelling, you know it scares me. Now I'm stupid and where you go. Wait, who's the new kid? Where you go? Not getting stronger. Now I can't seem to sit still any longer. Raw fear moves me, sounds of empty ooze. Life is just forever living hills, never slowing down. Raw fear moves me, sounds of empty ooze.
I don't know what I was expecting with this song, but it wasn't this, if that makes sense. You know, with a song like, with a title like RAWFEAR, I don't know, I was kind of expecting something a little more intense. To have it be, this is, it's really a fascinating feeling. I don't really know how to explain it. It's a good thing, I'll say that right now. But yeah, it's just... Beyond that thought, the first thing that's really sticking with me about this song, and it's not so much about this song particularly, it's just, having listened to these first two songs, it really feels like we're revisiting the past, and very specific parts of the past. Like with this one, I feel like we're getting callbacks to Message Man with the oohs and ahs. I don't know if that was what was intended, but it really feels that way for me. Like when I hear that, I'm brought back to Message Man, and that's happening really through sound, right? Through that sound. And with the last song, we ended off with, aspects of Heavy Dirty Soul, and of course we had lyrics from Holding On To You. So it's really interesting that that's the approach they go with here, and I really love it because we're talking about a cycle. We're trying to break a cycle. It only makes sense that we're revisiting these various different milestones, these different checkpoints, these different landmarks. And that's really the sense I'm getting on this journey so far, and I'm loving that, especially considering those lyrics in City Walls where he was talking about using the mistakes as a stencil. If he's feeling like he's on this cycle that he's never managed to break, he could look at all that past material as a mistake in some capacity, but he's revisiting it, and in doing so he's kind of honoring it, and he's truly trying to find the right way forward from there. So yeah, those are my initial thoughts, and I love it. But let's get right into the subject matter. RAWFEAR moves me, sounds of empty Uzis. Life is just forever nipping heels, never slowing down. I just mentioned how it felt like we ended off with the sounds of Heavy Dirty Soul in City Walls. You go back to Heavy Dirty Soul, Fear inspires me like a dog inspires a rabbit. It inspires him to run, but he's kind of changed that a bit here, right? Fear moves me. Raw fear moves me. It's interesting because he's like redefining that line in a way, right? He, instead of saying it terrifies him and makes him run, he's saying it moves him. And you think of how he chooses to express himself. It's through this music. And you think of how he's talked about on numerous occasions that he uses this fear and this pain to make the music. You could think of Ode to Sleep, where he talks about the pen, being a harpoon. He's seeing it as a weapon. And then you take that to like Chlorine, where he talks about poisonous vibrations. He talks about leaning into those fears and what it does to him. It's allowing him to make what he wants to make, but at the same time, it's kind of hurting him. And the fact that it's now a paper maker, the music, it makes it all the more complicated because now there's an incentive for him to keep doing this. But anyways, I don't want to get too sidetracked with that theme. But you kind of get where I'm going with that, right? Raw fear moves him. He's intrigued by it. It inspires him to do this. Then there's that line, never slowing down, which, it brings us back to Pet Cheetah and, the pressure he feels to do this in the way that he does it. And you go to the end of Trench, you see the importance for him to kind of, take things at a certain pace. He couldn't take the pace of change, so he had to take a step back, which makes this whole 1 year cycle all the more interesting, right? We had him aiming to break the cycle with Clancy. He wasn't able to pull that off. And here he is a year later trying to double down on those efforts. So I wonder if there's significance to that. And I really like this next verse. You know what scares me? Not stupid. You've met my fears. They're all regulars. Through this music, he's expressed himself over the years. He's used the fears to guide the pen. He's spoken openly about what his struggles were, and he was vulnerable, and we got to explore all that with him. He might feel like the repetition might become boring at a certain point, and that in of itself is fear. And we talked about optics earlier on, about how he feels the people might turn on him. This could be that coming into play in some capacity, but he quickly dives into this. Who's the new kid? You know what kills me? Not getting stronger. So a new fear added to the equation. But what he has identified as a major issue at this point is that, yes, he's on this cycle that keeps repeating itself. What really troubles him is that he doesn't see the progress. If there's repetition along this path, it's because he's truly taking the same path over and over again, and there isn't really enough course correction happening for him to feel like he's experiencing something new and thus, growing from the past. So now I'll take it over to the bridge. Learning all that really matters is a slow and painful lesson. It is not pass or fail, but a poisonous progression. Try to microdose to immunity, but you'll never ever get it. What's the matter isn't helping. I wish her parents would stop yelling. I could build a tower with the times I was pretending. Try to microdose to immunity, but I'll never see the ending. Very powerful lines there. The way I'm interpreting it is he's come to the realization that a lot of it is learning experience and adapting based on your learnings. And that learning experience and the growth that comes with it, it can be painful, and you try to maybe pace it, but you come to find that you're experiencing the pain all the same, and it just isn't helping. And even when people try to help, it doesn't necessarily take away that pain. And that line about building towers, the times he was pretending, the way I interpret that is it's him putting up his walls and trying to protect himself. And when you put up those walls, you kind of prevent yourself from progressing, right? You're kind of isolating yourself at one point in time in this cycle. And then you think of what those towers symbolize in this story and in the lore, and in Dima specifically. It houses the bishops that are trying to control him. So at this stage, he knows how those towers contribute to his lack of progress sometimes, and he's assigning blame to himself with that lack of progress. It's the times he was pretending to be okay. It was the times he was pretending to be immune to the pain. But I think the silver lining for him has always been, if he experiences this, he's going to get stronger through it. Here he's saying he can't really sit still because it's diminishing returns at this point. He's not really getting stronger from this. But ultimately, I think it leads to a point of this relationship with the music, this source of inspiration has to change. And what that would mean for how his writing process evolves and how his music making process evolves, I don't know, and I'm very curious to see if these other songs give a little more insight into that. So let's jump right into song number 3 and see where we go with it.
Putting on a drum show. He's putting on a drum show. Even now, he'll take a long way home. Even now, he'll never ever say so. Rather feel something than nothing at all. So he swerves all around as his head starts to fall. Tells it all. Stuck between a rock and a hole. Two places he does not wanna go. So, he's putting on a drum show. Drown it out, drown it out.
Josh on vocals. This is awesome. I was so excited when I heard this the first time. Still am.
He's putting on a drum show. Even now, he'll take a long way home.
Alright, so that was Drum Show. What a beautiful song. And yeah, like I said, as I was reacting, the first time I heard Josh on those vocals and in the bridge, I was just blown away. I was like, wow, he fits this song so perfectly. And it's just, I want so much more of Josh on vocals, like in that capacity, especially where he kind of comes in either on backing vocals. I know we were introduced to that through the concerts. I think it's with Paladin Straight, they kind of mixed in Bandito, and Josh was singing the parts of Bandito as Tyler was singing Paladin Straight, and it just sounded so beautiful. I was so excited for the possibility that we could potentially get Josh on a song or two, following that, and I'm so happy that we did. He is so great on this, and it's pretty fitting that the first song you really get him to be present in this capacity is a song called Drum Show. So yeah, just to take you all back to how I felt the first time I heard this song, beyond that idea of yay, Josh on vocals, this song felt like it related so heavily to car radio, and I stand by that today as well. You talk about somebody who is turning to music for distractions, turning to music to occupy his mind and, cut the silence that has been known to be violent at times. He's using the music to cope with that, but in car radio, somebody stole the car radio, so he had to deal with the silence. Here in this song, we have somebody who's coming from somewhere they don't want to be and headed to somewhere else that they also don't want to be. So that journey, the journey from point A to point B, is actually much better than either one of the destinations, or at least the targeted destinations. So he's going to try and extend that process as much as possible. He's going to try and extend that journey as much as possible, because there's so much more to gain from that, in his opinion, than from either place where he has been and where he's going. And that really leads us to this interesting idea. has he not broken the cycle because he hasn't been able to, or has he not broken the cycle because he's scared of what lies beyond it, what comes after the cycle? I really feel like that's what he's alluding to here with this song. But interestingly enough, and this brings me to the second thing that really stuck with me about this song the first time I heard it, it's the perspective he's taking. Even in the music video, it's Josh who's the individual in the driver's seat. It's Josh that he's talking about. And I don't necessarily think that, it's about Josh per se. He's just using Josh as a symbol of someone that is not him. He's talking about someone else and his observations of that person. And I think it's important to note that in the music video, it's not Josh the torchbearer. It's not about Dima here. It's just him in a different world observing. And I think that observation is revealing to him how he feels about his journey in this cycle. And I think it's at least partly the premise for him needing to break it at this point. He shouldn't necessarily have these negative thoughts of where he has been, and he shouldn't not want to get to where he is heading. And this ties into a concept I've talked about at length, especially in those no fun intended reactions. I remember talking about the idea that there's kind of these two different poles, if you will, where one is where he's closer to his faith and the other is where he's closer to, I guess, individual expression. And more so it's just that he's less influenced by his faith and more influenced by his individual desires. And it just feels like the closer he gets to either one, the less comfortable he actually feels. So there, it really did feel like to him it was a lot better to just be somewhere in between and not really be at any one of the destinations. So I think this song really speaks to that. But to have it end on "I've been this way, I want to change," it's like, yeah, that's what the journey has been like thus far. We have to find a way to change it. I feel like what's going to change is perception of the destination and where he has been. I think the where he has been part we have already been introduced to at this stage in the album. We've revisited a bunch of different songs, either through lyrics or through sounds. And with this one here, like, it's a major theme we're revisiting with Car Radio, but as well as a host of other songs if we're just talking about the cycle in of itself. So yeah, that summarizes my thoughts on Drum Show. Let's get right into this next song. It's entitled Garbage. Chills. There we have it. That was Garbage. Man, that bridge, that was something. Ooh. Felt like he was like, hitting me right in the core with that. But yeah, I didn't do it. That's how the song starts. I didn't do it. I feel like that just sets the stage to make us feel like he's talking from a place of guilt here, or feeling guilty. And there's a few different things about this song that makes me feel like we're still touching on different topics that are explored in car radio. Of course, coming off of a song that seems heavily influenced by car radio plays into that, but we have him talking about biting down on his shirt sleeve. We have him talking about silence. We know how much the sequencing of these tracks on these albums with 21 Pilots is very, very much intentional. I just can't help but feel like it's intentional that these lines resonate in a specific way because of car radio. And on that note, talking about car radio, I'll bring up the lines I'm referring to specifically. Sometimes quiet is violent. I find it hard to hide it. My pride is no longer inside. It's on my sleeve. My skin will scream, reminding me of who I killed inside my dream. I go back to what I said as this track ended. It feels like, that first line is really about bringing us to this idea that he's speaking from a place of a sense of guilt. Those lines in car radio are describing the source of that guilt. And here, that sense of guilt has him feeling like garbage and operating at a much lower level than his full potential. Then with this pre-chorus, I'll walk you through the numbers, I'll show you nothing's left. To me, that sounds like he feels like this is all a test, but he's trying to let it be known that he's reaching his limits here with this specific journey. And speaking of journey, touching on what I was talking about in that previous track, Drum Show, and the fact that he isn't comfortable being close to either one of the destinations, be it where he's coming from or where he's headed. The closer he gets to either one, the more likely he is to accuse either one for the reason he feels the way he feels. And I find verse 2 pretty interesting as well. He says, I can't decide if I could feel more or I just knew less when I was younger. I've kind of identified these different topics and these different stages of the journey as different checkpoints and different landmarks. At this point, he's very familiar with them all. The different checkpoints, the different landmarks, the different fears. He's explored these paths so much that they're so familiar to him, and perhaps he's become a little bit numb to them as well, so he's feeling them a whole lot less. And I think there's some irony there too as well, because it's like he's feeling them less, so this fear is probably having a little bit less impact on him, but at the same time, it's that fear that moves him. So if the fear is no longer moving him as much, he has less of a reason to use it as a source of inspiration for this music. And that brings us into this bridge. Would you move closer if I grew quieter? Maybe this is you, maybe you don't fix and you like it like this. So we talked about what happens to him when he's quiet. It gives more space for those negative thoughts to invade his state of mind, and it makes him more likely to be self-conscious, be more likely to be insecure. It makes him more likely to build those walls and stop progressing. So he's in a bit of a hard place here where it's like expressing himself in this way isn't benefiting him as much anymore. But if he were to pull back and not express himself as much, then he's in silence again, and it does give more space for those negative thoughts. So where does that leave him? With this song, it does seem like he's pointing the finger a little bit. He's saying, maybe this is you, maybe you don't fix and you like it like this. Once more, he's kind of talking about the journey, I feel, and it's like, maybe this is just part of the process and he has to feel this in order to push on through and end up in the next stage of this cycle, I suppose. And then we have this outro, which is essentially the chorus, but also adding on, don't give up on me, no please. So once more, we're back in that same struggle where he's gonna point the finger, but then once he does, he feels that sense of guilt. So once more, a cycle, right? We started off with a sense of guilt, we're ending off with a sense of guilt, and between that, he's taken the time to to point the finger and to accuse. And that cycle has him feeling like garbage, hence the title of this track. The Contract is the only other song that I've heard on this album prior to listening to it, other one being Drum Show, of course. So let's get right into it. I do have a few thoughts that I'll share with you once the song is done, but let's see how it hits at this stage in the album.
I have a feeling that necromancer's outside, and I'm just trying to stay quiet. It's like Max, that's crazy, how you know that? Ooh, my hands, I used to say, wake up and find out the change up, wake up to change up, yeah, that's what I'm my face, face around, and try to breathe, face around. That's crazy, how you know that? Keep myself up, that's maybe how you know
There we have it, The Contract. And I've listened to this song before many times, as I mentioned earlier. This is the first time I actually pulled up the lyrics, though, because I made it a point not to read the lyrics prior to doing this reaction, because I knew I was going to be doing this reaction. So I just kind of decided to listen to those songs, Drum Show and The Contract, and immerse myself into the songs without ever actually pulling up the lyrics. So there's a bunch of lines that I kind of misheard as I was listening to them, and one of them that comes to mind is, I want to get out there, but I don't try. I thought it was, I want to get ahead, but I don't try. But this actually, I mean, for me, the whole not getting ahead thing makes sense. You want to make progress, but you're just stuck in the loop, and you're not necessarily trying to break the loop. There's some kind of comfort in it. But this actually makes more sense with the context of the song. He's isolated in this place, in this house, in this room, and there's this outside place that he has basically convinced himself is bad, right? Necromancer's outside. But ultimately, if you've listened to 21 Pilots, you know that outside is the place to be. Outside is where you go and join in hands with the individuals that are also feeling isolated in their space, and they also have to go out to that place to meet up with you. I'm thinking of Guns for Hands when I say this, and more specifically the lines I'm thinking of, hope's out the window, so that's where we'll go. Let's go outside and all join hands, and until then, you won't understand. It's like if you allow yourself to be stuck in that room that he spoke on many occasions, right? Like, even if we think of Redecorate off of Scaled and Icy, if we think Not Today, where he has to tear the curtains down and make a sound, in all these cases, he just can't allow himself to be stuck in this room and allow himself not to express himself. It's just kind of the opposite of what he's doing here in this song, right? I check the doors, check the windows, and pull the blinds. I check the clock, wondering what he'll pull this time. It's like you're in that part of the cycle where he's convinced that he shouldn't be making a sound. He shouldn't be getting out there. And then we have the verse where he says, wake up and find out. Did it change up? Wait, did it change up? Is it light out yet? Better find out. I walk around the edge of the room and the bed where I hide my face, pace around, better try to breathe, pace around, pace around. I mean, this pretty much just brings me to what I really wanted to talk about when it came to this track, how it made me feel when I listened to it. Much like how Drum Show brought me back to car radio very distinctly, this song brought me back to Guns for Hands very distinctly, but it was kind of a combination of Guns for Hands, Fake You Out, and Not Today. It just feels so connected to those tracks, and as far as Guns for Hands goes, Better Try to Breathe, Pace Around, you go to Guns for Hands, he talks about what you have to do when you're feeling in that space, right? He's saying, let's take this 1 second at a time. Let's take this one song, one rhyme together. Let's breathe together to the beat. In essence, it's like this music is his escape from that place. And in order for him to allow it to have that kind of impact, he has to really connect to it, right? And then once he does connect to it, that's when he'll be able to better breathe. And then, of course, we have the "Is it light out yet" line. That's just such a big theme in 21 Pilots music, right? This cycle represented through the cycle of a day, and the hard times being represented by the nighttime, the time he's tortured by the thoughts that keep him up at night. And of course, there's the chorus, "I don't sleep much, that's crazy, how'd you know that? I keep myself up, that's maybe how you know that. Oh, promises and contracts I used to keep." So yeah, this song just resonates to me as one where he's succumbing to what is tormenting him. So those are my thoughts on the song, but once more, it just feels to me like there's so many ties to past ideas and thoughts that were, presented in detail in those past songs. Some of the ones I've mentioned here, surely a bunch of other ones that I'm just not thinking of in the moment. That's something that I'm seeing happening a lot with this album so far, and that's just so interesting considering what they're trying to do with this album here. They're trying to revisit the cycle so that they could break it once and for all. So it only makes sense that in retracing your lines, you're coming across all this once more. I'm really loving that aspect about this album. So with that said, let's get right into the next track, Downstairs. This is creepy. It's like a horror movie. Alright, there we have it. That's Downstairs. When I saw the title, the first thing I thought of was Heavy Dirty Soul. First few lines of that song, there's an infestation in my mind's imagination. I hope that they choke on smoke because I'm smoking them out of the basement. So to me, that line always resonated like one where he has situated these fears and these negative thoughts in the basement of this home that he's using to basically conceptualize his mind. And with the way this song started, how I felt like it sounded like a horror movie a little bit, I did feel like it was headed in that direction. But very quickly, as Tyler started singing, I was brought to Jumpsuit. What brought me to Jumpsuit in particular was that bridge in Jumpsuit where he talks about going along with this person, this individual, whatever this is, but they'll have to grab him by the throat and lift him in the air. He also talks about them having to tie him down and break both of his hands. I've always thought of the hands part of this being related to him writing, and the grabbing of the throat part being related to him singing. So basically there comes a point in time where he is willing to go along with those negative thoughts and follow them in that direction. But ultimately there will always be a point in time where he chooses to express himself, and that is his way of breaking free from that path. Here in Downstairs, he's saying, you could have both my lungs if you ask me. So essentially, like in Contract where he was succumbing to something, here again it kind of feels like he is giving himself up to something. He's putting his full trust into something, and he gives the reasoning behind it. Because I want to be the one after your own heart. I might doubt the process like I doubted the start. And that feels like an immediate callback to the song Doubt, which was re-released in the form of a demo. And in that song, he talks about shaking hands with the dark parts of his thoughts. No, you're the only one that I've got. And, you know, you're the only one that I've got. That just sounds like it's a direct contradiction to those dark thoughts, those dark parts of his thoughts. So it's like, it's what's helping him combat them. You kind of just have to wonder what exactly that is, because there's parts of this album, but you know, even just the discography as a whole, that would suggest that it's his support system that's the bigger part of him being able to combat those thoughts. And I feel like I've already felt like that idea came up here on this album. With City Walls, there was definitely that component of, you know, entertain my faith. It's like one last time he's putting his trust into his faith along the journey of this process. So yeah, I think some part of him is like, okay, I'm putting faith in you one last time, but I don't know if I'm gonna regret even thinking that, and hence the pre-chorus, so I'm begging no, oh mercy. It's like part of him just feels like these thoughts are blasphemous and he shouldn't be having them. Then you have this chorus, downstairs I feel better in the cellar, down there it's some shelter from the weather, I wear all of my heart on my sleeve, I'll take what I believe and I'm hiding it. He's succumbing once more to this idea of isolation. He could take everything he feels and hide it down there, and he feels like he's protected from whatever can and would judge him. He feels so unsure about what he believes in, so he's uncomfortable putting it out there. And furthermore, he feels uncomfortable that he even feels uncomfortable about it. And that just leads us into this next verse. Feeling like I'm nothing, feeling like I'm run down, was afraid of nothing. Now I'm just ashamed of how I hide my face from you. That's like a cycle in of itself. He wants to believe this, but then on the other hand, he doesn't know if it's worth it to believe in this. Then he's afraid of what would become of him and how he would be judged for feeling like it may be worthless, and then he's just afraid of it being potentially nothing that he's afraid of, while also being afraid that he would be judged for thinking that it's nothing. So yeah, that pretty much summarizes it for me. I feel like Downstairs is a song that explains very well how he ends up isolated in this space. There's just too much uncertainty when he puts himself out there, and as restrictive as this isolated space can be, it at least offers him shelter from that feeling. Those are the thoughts that lead him to suppress his needs to express himself. So that does it for Downstairs, and the next song is Robot Voices, so let's get right into it.
Robots and machines in my room, and understanding each tones they make, and I just want to dance and smile and stay a while. The legs on the floor. How did you find me? I wasn't looking for love this year.
Alright, that was Robot Voices, and I've gotta say, at this stage, I'm not exactly sure what robot voices refer to. I initially thought that it was referring to like Blurry Face, because you go back to that album and you have like that deeper tone that's used as backing vocals on many occasions, or in some cases it's literally the lead. Like on Fairly Local, for instance, you have that deeper tone used to portray Blurry Face basically singing the negative thoughts. And that part in the song when he says, when I met you, I found you safe and warm, part of me was thinking, okay, maybe this is the song that's dedicated to Jenna, because he has one of those on each album. But those ones are a little bit more direct, and it's a little bit more obvious that it's talking about her. This feels a lot more obscure and abstract, so yeah, I'm gonna guess that's not the case. But anyways, let's pull up these lyrics, and maybe reading through it, it'll become a little bit more clear. They keep me company, the robots and machines in my room, and understanding the beeps and tones they make. The only advice I take, the inside jokes are landing. Now I'm waiting for changes. Everyone sees, feeling so fancy. This first verse really made me feel like he was talking about music, the robots and machines in his room, referring to, the different machines he uses to make music. The only advice I take, it makes sense to me that he's following the lead of the music. He's allowing the music to take him where it takes him. I just want to dance in style and stay a while. The lines on the floor, how did you find me? And that dance in style and stay a while line, that still to me speaks to music. Lines on the floor, how did you find me? That sounds to me like Nico has found his way to Tyler or to Clancy once more. Thought I was invincible, you wrapped around my head. With Chlorine, he's very much speaking on what music means to him and how he can insulate himself with music, but still somehow the fear finds its way to him. And I think it's with Pet Cheetah, he gets convinced that he could lose the music, he could lose the support through how he approaches the music, and that's part of how he ends up silencing himself or restricting his expressiveness. Yeah, this just all still lines up with music and how he ends up, kind of losing touch with it, despite how strong of a relationship he has with it. Then we have the chorus, I wasn't looking for love this year, but my robot told me that I shouldn't fear. When I met you, I found you safe and warm. Then the robot voices would reassure me. Then we have the second verse, the half-drawn blinds, casting lines on the floor. So this is an interesting line because we talk about, pulling curtains and whatnot and like really isolating yourself in a room. Here he's saying the blinds are half drawn, so he is still open to the outside as opposed to completely isolating himself. And I don't know, and with the context of this song, I kind of feel like that's the music that's opening him up to these wider horizons, as opposed to locking him into this room and ultimately leading to him feeling uninspired. As my metal friend flashes in time, the daisy chain power strips generating a newfound loneliness. So I'm waiting for the changes everyone sees, feeling so fancy. So metal friend flashing in time, again, to me feels like it's relating to music. A newfound loneliness, so I'm waiting for the changes. It's like he's reached a point where it doesn't feel creative anymore. So he's waiting for some kind of switch up so that it feels innovative in some sense. And that's something we see a lot in 21 Pilots music, actually. Like, they try and not follow a strict format. They try to not be formulaic. They try and switch things up in a way that just feels so unexpected as you're listening to these songs. You go to Ode to Sleep, that's a perfect example of one of those songs. And then you come to The Contract here, that's another great example of one. There's honestly so many of them, so to me, again, it just resonates in that way. We're speaking to music and how the process of making the music comes about and what it looks like to him. So yeah, I think that's my interpretation of this song. It's still a little bit ambiguous to me. I'm not fully confident in what I'm saying right now, but I do feel like the topic is touching on music and how it allows him to combat those negative thoughts. Next song is entitled Center Mass. Let's jump right into it.
Soft spots in the middle seat. Right this way, shivering. Blood all on my shirt sleeves. You covered half of as small as they say. They call it Santa Mass. That part they aim for. Just enough as it is, gotta walk. If you're looking up once at the kids in the park with a day, getting dark with a day. This way. Okay, okay. I know, I know. You said you made it to the top. I lied. Listen to the sound. Did you make that noise? That part they aim for. I don't wanna say what happened. I just wanna let it go. Nothing was the same right after. I went to the funeral. I miss you so much. Take what you want. Take what you want from me. Took you for crazy. They call it sentiments. That part they aim for. That part they aim for. That part they aim for. That part they aim for.
So that was center mass, and interestingly enough, he kind of defines center mass in the song. He says they call it center mass, that part they aim for. Essentially, it's kind of like the core of something. It's the part you aim for to affect the greater or the overall structure. And it's really interesting how he uses that concept to explain why he is where he's at, right? We talked about him isolating himself and how he might be compelled to do that. And here with center mass, again, he's speaking on that very candidly. So with verse 1, he says, "A little softer than I used to be, used to mouth off often with artillery, now it is cough drops and soft spots in a middle seat chivalry." So when he says I used to mouth off with artillery, I immediately think to levitate. To me, that's one of the clearest examples of him, being almost overconfident. It's to the point where he's literally taunting the bishops to come get him. He's taunting those negative thoughts to come invade his mind. He feels so untouchable in that moment that he's willing to do that. And then by chlorine, you have him saying, "Thought I was invincible, you wrapped around my head." So you would think that going through that cycle of, being in that place where he feels confident enough to be arrogant, to eventually being led to that place where he gets caught up to by those negative thoughts, in experiencing that over and over again, it would make sense that over time he learns to avoid being overconfident. "A tighter space than I used to know, spread out wide no more, pinch my shoulders close, hoping they misplace my reservation." I think this is cool imagery. He's just enclosing himself further and further in tighter and tighter spaces, and he's portraying that in terms of like this physical space, but also with how he presents himself, with how he, places his body. Instead of, being like super comfortable and laid back, he's just like, all hunched over and closed in. He's trying to make himself as unseen as he possibly can, or unperceivable. Then we have this pre-chorus, "I thought you had it figured out. You said you made it to the top. So tell us, how did you make it out all right?" So this to me really feels like it's speaking to this journey that we've seen play out in the music videos, especially, or at the end of Paladin Strait, where he says, "Climb the top of the tower." Climbing to the top of the tower means he's confronting those bishops. He's confronting those negative thoughts head on. So when he says, "You made it to the top, I lied," had he actually confronted them, it'd be a different situation altogether. He wouldn't be presenting himself in the way that he is in this song. Then we have this chorus, "I pull on my shirt sleeve to cover half of my hands, bring my arms closer to my body, get as small as I can." So again, he's trying to hide himself. But this line about pulling on his shirt sleeve to cover half of his hands, especially with the music videos and the concert footage, you notice that he's got the black paint or whatever that is covering more and more of his body, to the point it's up to his neck here, but it's on his hands and everything. And that represents Dima or the bishops or Nico or the dark thoughts having more and more influence over him. So when he's covering up those hands, it's like he is ashamed. He's trying to cover up what is there because he doesn't want that influence to be evident. And he also says, I pull on my shirt sleeve to cover half my face. The face he's trying to hide is blurry face. It's the part of him that he's fairly confident he doesn't want to identify with, but he doesn't know how to cut ties with. There is some part of him that kind of feels like it's protecting him. So you talk about center mass, that's something you could aim for if you're trying to target his anxiety. It's the fact that these negative thoughts are there and he's able to identify them, yet he's not able to part ways with them, no matter how much he has identified them and identified the negative influence they have on him. But when he says they call it center mass, that part they aim for, there's also part of me that thinks it's just these negative thoughts know exactly where to target him to bring him down. And that's essentially how I heard this track. But then we had this outro. Found out what I'm worth. I run to you. I hope you understand this run-on sentence. My tattoos only hurt when meaning fades. I think my skin got worse with good intentions. So that line was kind of built to in the chorus where he says, shrink it down to nothing and forgetting what pain's for. It's like he's grown from something, but then in this line, when the meaning of that growth fades, you're kind of just left with having experienced pain and not feeling like there was any meaning to it. I think my skin got worse with good intentions. It's like he put that tattoo there with the intention of it having some form of significance to him, but now it's more of a reminder more than anything. I don't want to say what happened. I just want to let it go. Nothing was the same after I went to the funeral. I miss you so, so much. Take what you want. Take what you want from me. Took you for granted. So this may be literal. This may be a metaphor. One way or another, he lost something or someone that was important to him. And in losing that, he lost part of himself. And he tried to draw meaning from that situation. But now he's in a place where that has lost meaning, and it's something that can be targeted in him. And when it is targeted, he feels very insecure. If I really had to come to a conclusion as to what he's speaking on here, just thinking about his tattoos and the ones I know about, at least, I know he has a cross on him. I would think he's referring to his faith here, especially considering the themes that we've already explored in the album, and the ones that we've revisited from prior albums and the ways that we've revisited them. So I would think he's referring to his faith here, and he's talking about how that's something that can be targeted to bring him down. It's his relationship with his faith, his uncertainty around faith. He's just not in a place that he wants to be in on that journey, and I don't think he has been in a very long time, if ever, and I don't know if he feels like he ever will be. So that's something that's very difficult for him to come to terms with, and I think that's what center mass is about here. That's something that really troubles him. And now we're on to track number 9, Cottonwood.
Can't believe you're gone for good. Someone shot you down. Thought you just fall in the woods, but she heard that sound. I don't remember last we spoke. I don't remember. I look back in time through a telescope. I've been catching up. You weren't waiting anymore. Were you sad or brave? No, don't condemn you. Back and forth. No, don't condemn you. Condemn you. I look back in time through a
I have chills again.
catching up. You turn me on more than you tore me up. I look back in time through a telescope. I've been catching up.
Man, what a song. So beautiful sounding, but also so melancholic. Um, yeah, that first verse brought me back to Trees big time. Can't believe you're gone for good. Someone chopped you down, thought you'd just fall in the woods, but she heard that sound. No, I don't. No, I don't remember last we spoke. No, I don't. No, I don't remember. Trees is such an interesting song because you could draw whatever meaning you want from it. You talk about somebody going in the woods and feeling some type of way, feeling some way about their presence amongst nature, amongst these tall trees, amongst the elements, right? The wind breezing. With the way that Tyler sings about it, with the way they build up to that track, it really does feel like it's about his journey with his faith. He's trying to speak with this divine being. He's trying to get some form of guidance. He's trying to show it that he believes in it and that he feels it, and he could feel its presence and its power, but he doesn't know what to make of it, and he doesn't know where to go from here. He needs some form of guidance. He needs some type of sign. And without that, he doesn't really know how to proceed, and he can't really promise what would influence him and what wouldn't. With where we just left off on Center Mass, where it feels like to him that connection has lost some significance. It's lost that tattoo has lost some meaning to him. Here it just feels like he's so disconnected from that relationship, and he's saying, can't believe you're gone for good, someone chopped you down. It's interesting that he puts it that way, right? Someone chopped you down. He's not saying it's him. It sounds like something external took that away from him. Thought you'd just fall in the woods. It kind of sounds like he expected this outcome just in a different way. And it's especially sad because he says, I don't remember last we spoke. So to me, the setting is like he's going back to that place. He's going back to that forest with the trees, and that tree is just gone. And also, interestingly enough, he has this line, but she heard that sound. We don't know exactly who she is. I would assume he's talking about, his family. He's talking about Jenna. He's talking about somebody perceiving something in him, something lost. So it sounds to me like she was able to see that he was disconnected to that extent, and that's what enticed him to revisit that forest and revisit the trees, and that's what allowed him to notice that it's reached that point where, it's fallen to the ground. In verse 2, we have him saying, most are blown down in a storm, but the wind was tame. You weren't waiting anymore. Were you sad or brave? I don't condemn you. Back and forth, no, I don't condemn you. So when I heard this verse, I kind of thought that it was that divine entity giving its perspective. In Trees, he doesn't necessarily directly say he was waiting, but when he says standing there cowardly, standing there silent, it kind of does feel like he's waiting for something. So when in this verse he says, you weren't waiting anymore, were you sad or brave? It's like, were you hurt by your experience there and therefore you ran from it? Or did you achieve a certain level of growth where you didn't need to be in this place anymore and you could continue with your life and still have that influence in you without necessarily having to be in that place specifically? I don't condemn you. So it's like, either way, whatever the reason is that you weren't there, for whatever reason you didn't go back to the forest, or for whatever reason he didn't go back to the forest, he isn't condemned for that choice. There's forgiveness there, there's understanding there. And that's just really a heartbreaking thing, because Tyler on so many occasions is kind of pointing the finger at this, right? And here it's like showing him kindness despite feeling like he's been neglectful and forgetful. And then we have this bridge, you tore me up more than you know. I think that's kind of self-explanatory at this point. He just feels guilty to a point where it's almost unfathomable. He's tried to explain it time and time again, but he may not feel like that does it justice. There's just a constant sense of guilt for his relationship with his faith. And yeah, that's how I heard Cottonwood. Definitely a strong track with, if we're going to talk about callbacks to places Tyler has been in his journey through all of his songwriting, this is a very significant one. They're all significant, but you talk about Trees and the fact that it's kind of, well, it's not kind of, it is the show closer for pretty much any show that 21 Pilots have. It's a song that's very significant and very meaningful to him. So for him to have a track like this here in the album, it just feels massive. And you know what? This is my interpretation of it. Maybe, I don't know, I could be wrong about it being connected to Trees. It's just how it resonated with me. But one way or another, I think it's evident that he's lost something that is very meaningful to him. Or someone that is very meaningful to him. And, especially coming off of a track like Center Mass, where he talks about losing something, and I guess his feelings about losing that thing being something that could be targeted in that way, in a way that just brings him down. It just makes this feel even more amplified. This already feels big on its own. It feels even larger coming off of Center Mass. Now we're on to track number 10, which is entitled One Way.
Opposed to One Way going into Days Lie Dormant, but it does feel like quite a vibe change. And
oh wait, this is Days Lie Dormant. It's the next song. What a transition. Okay, so that was One Way. I really like that song. This one here brought me back to like what he was saying in Downstairs and how he finds shelter from the weather in the basement or downstairs. So in isolating himself, he doesn't have to actually deal with the weather. But then I also feel like it's connected to Isle of Flightless Birds in a sense, where he talks about spreading his wings and flying despite there being no hope, but also feeling no fear. He's going to continue flying despite him plummeting to the ground, or despite the possibility of that. Here he says, am I dreaming? If it's so, can I take back who I was before? If it's no, then all my dreams have not been interesting in a while. So the way I interpret this is whatever perspective he's exposed to, it's something that's enlightening to him in some sense. If it is a dream, he would like to change who he was before because he's feeling, motivated to change in some capacity. This perspective has given him perspective on a way forward. If it's not a dream, then all of his dreams are quite uninteresting and uninspiring because now here he is faced with a reality that's just so much bigger than all of his dreams. This stage, one way or another, it seems like he feels like he's found this way forward. And then we're led back into this chorus where he's saying, I wanted to fly, but they say a system's coming in. The chances are high that this is a one-way. So, yeah, the way I hear the chorus at this point in the song is it's like, if he's going to take this path, if he's going to go down this road, there's no turning back. And then we have the second verse, which kind of puts into perspective why he can't stay where he is and why it is even more enticing for him to take that path. Me and my scene just ain't gelling. Someone next to me keeps yelling, why am I still walking? I mean, something must be wrong here. I just don't belong here. So you talk about him flying. Why am I walking? Flying just seems like the best way forward. He can't possibly get to his desired destination just by walking. So he has to fly if he's going to reach this point that he's aiming to reach. So if you're going to talk about him sheltering himself from the storm in the past or in a different situation, here he's compelled to fight that, because if he doesn't, he's just going to be stuck in this place where he doesn't feel like he belongs. And that concludes my thoughts for One Way, which leads us into this next song, Days Lie Dormant. I'm curious to see what the vibe change is here, so let's get right into it.
My days lie dormant, frozen and distorted, robbed of my momentum and suspended in the air. My days lie dormant, it's feeling less important.
Alright, that was Days Lie Dormant, and this has got to be the Jenna song, right? The Jenna song of this album, or the song dedicated to Jenna, or the song dedicated to his family, because, I mean, it sure sounds like it. I guess I'll just get into the lyrics and kind of describe why I feel like it is that song. You say I should chase it, I'll never say no, too narrow and too tight, somewhere you can't follow. So, I mean, that just describes to me a situation where he feels like he could go in a certain direction and he's being told to go in that direction because it's kind of the visible path towards progress. But this path is also one that the individual couldn't possibly follow if Tyler were to take this path. It's too narrow and too tight. It's just room for one. Then with the pre-chorus, he says, you say with your face something else altogether. So something different from you should chase it. This individual feels otherwise. They're kind of concerned that he would chase it. Then we have this chorus, my days lie dormant because I just can't afford it to waste time in a city where no one knows your name. My days lie dormant because I just can't afford it to waste my time inside a place you're not. Don't make me waste my love, it's everything I've got. And the place he's referring to here, the city, There could be different ways to interpret it, but the way I'm seeing it is we're talking about an album where he's looking to break the cycle. We're talking about an album where he's looking to conclude the story of Dima. He spent a lot of time in this place. He spent a lot of time and effort trying to conceptualize this space, and present it to us, the listeners, in a way that is tangible for us, in a way that we could connect and relate to, in a way that we could explore the thoughts and feelings with him through the music. You could only assume how much that takes away from his time with his family. I would think as much as he loves this world he has created, it feels like he's reached a point where he would be wasting his time if he were to continue trying to build upon this. It feels to him like he's achieved what he set out to achieve with it, and spending any further time trying to elaborate and further build on it is just taking time away from something and someone else that he loves and cares about very deeply, and something else that he wants to invest time into. And that kind of brings me back to the music video for Saturday. I think it's in the song as well. I'm not entirely sure. I don't fully remember, but we have that section where Tyler gets a call from Jenna and she's asking him if he's in the studio or if he's going to come to bed. And she kind of just suggests that he continues with the music if he's feeling like he's in a flow. And as much as he is in one, and as much as he does want to make the music he's making, he's also not super happy in that moment because he wants to watch Friends with her. It's kind of that vibe I'm getting out of this song. It's like, yes, the music means so much to him. Yes, he wants to invest a lot of time and effort into it, and she will convince him that he should do that. But he does feel like, she doesn't want him to fully push in that direction, and he also has reached a place where he doesn't really want to do that. It's not like he wants to stop altogether, but he doesn't want to push to this extent in this direction. And that's my interpretation of Days Lie Dormant. Next one is Tally. Let's get right into it. It's the second to last song on the album, so we're approaching the end really quick here. Let's see how this one goes.
I lost my rank and title. I turned my back on it. Sold it all at a discount. I wanted to progress things. I wanted my soul set free. Lost it all at a discount. You and I both know the sound of story. Though you've seen it several times. You wanna tell it, I lost account. You wanna love me, I let you down. Now replay it in my mind. I see your heart break every time. Still now, you believe in me somehow. Like right when the storm hits, I take right to the circumstantial proof you should go your way. I should try mine, even though we both know we should just let the light in. You wanna tell it, I lost account. You wanna love me, I let you down. When I replay it in my mind, I see your heart break every time. Still now, you believe in me somehow. Just figure you were keeping track of every time I let you down, I breached your trust, I let you go. Just figure you were keeping track. You wanna love me, me somehow.
There we have it. That was Tally. I love that track. As I was listening to this, I was kind of feeling like it was almost all-encompassing. He was speaking to so many different people through this track. It felt like he was talking to the fans, felt like he was talking to his friends and family, felt like he was speaking on his faith. But then the further we got into the track, it kind of felt like he was honing in more on the faith piece. And the reason I feel like that, I'll take it back to Clancy. I believe the song is Snap Back. He says he's blacklisted from forgiveness. He fooled whatever this is once, but now it's been 25 times. So clearly, Tyler or Clancy has been keeping count. And, with Clancy, we're talking about, prior to this album, the most recent tally count, if you will. You go back to the earlier materials, you go back to Ode to Sleep. I think there he talked about it being 3 times that he asked for forgiveness and was denied. In both cases, when asking for forgiveness, it sounds like he was speaking to his faith. So here it kind of feels like he's speaking on that same topic. And on that topic, he says, "You want to tally, I lost the count. You want to love me, I'll let you down. Still now you believe in me somehow. When I replay it in my mind, I see your heart break every time. Still now you believe in me somehow." And it's really those lines that kind of made me feel like it was a little bit more all-encompassing, and perhaps it is. Perhaps it isn't just about his faith, because this could really apply to so much. It's like he feels like in making this music, he's building trust somehow with a variety of people. In doing the things that he's doing, he's building trust with a variety of people, but ultimately he feels like he ends up letting them down. Yet, despite that being the case, he feels the love, he feels the support that comes his way. But if we are honing in on his faith, it's this thing where no matter what he does, he feels that connection to his faith somehow. It always finds its way back to him, no matter how far away he strays from it, no matter how far gone he feels he is from it. It feels like one way or another, it still comes back to him. And with the verses, he really touches on, that conflict, right? That back and forth, saying, "I lost my rank, my title, I turned my back on it, sold it all at a discount, wanted to progress things, I wanted to set my soul free." So he's explaining why he took the path he took. And with verse 2, he says, "I liken our fight to 2 lightning strikes, strike on cue, like right when a storm hits, sights set, right set, circumstantial proof. You should go your way, I should try mine, even though we both know we should just cut the line." It's like we're re-exploring that theme of guilt. He doesn't feel like he's worthy of forgiveness, so anytime he feels his faith reignited in him in some capacity, it's like, why are you still here? Why do I still feel this support if I feel like I've turned my back on you as much as I have? And then we have that bridge. "Somehow I figured you were keeping track of every time, just figured you were keeping track of every time I let you down, I breached your trust." So, it feels to me like he's explaining why he's brought up that number throughout time, right? Starting with Ode to Sleep, and most recently in Snap Back. Now with this album here in Breach, he's just lost count altogether. And that summarizes my interpretation of Tally. Another one of those songs that I feel ties in heavily to past things that were said, past themes that were explored. In certain cases, very specific lines. And, in this song specifically, I feel like we're exploring at least 2 lines that were said very explicitly in Ode to Sleep and in Snap Back. So very fascinating to see how this album has consistently done that in an interesting way. I'm very curious to see how this last song kind of just ties everything up. It kind of nervous about it, to be honest. This is a big deal, You talk about a story that's been built over the course of over a decade, I would assume, if we're being honest. Like, it's been told for longer than that, because Vessel touches on a lot of the topics we're looking at here as well. But I think what's really being concluded here is the story of Dima. So I would think that really starts in Blurry Face, As far as the subject matter goes, I don't think that's being concluded upon here in this song, but perhaps he's going to give like his interpretation of what the cycle represents, what it means. I don't know. Let's see. This is Intentions.
I am starting it all again. Did I learn a thing? Intentions are everything. You will fail most every day. Did you learn a thing? Intentions will set you free. Just try to be.
Wow. I wasn't expecting it to be short like that. I wasn't ready for the album to just end. But such a beautiful song, beautiful message. Talk about callbacks. This one feels like a callback to Clear. That would have been off of Regional at best. I don't think he explicitly talks about intentions in Clear, but I always felt like he was speaking on that indirectly. He talks about having two faces and testing both out to see which one is the better one. And as a result of that, he kind of feels like an imposter. He doesn't fully know who he is. He doesn't know what he's supposed to be doing. He doesn't know what is right or wrong. And the fact that that is not evident to him makes him feel uncomfortable with where he's at, no matter what, no matter where he is on the journey, whether he's closer to his faith or whether he's closer to the version of him that's more about, individual expression. No matter where he is on that path, he feels uncomfortable. But with that last, I guess it's the last verse, it might have been the outro, he talks about introspection. And when he's talking about introspection in that way, talking about, he says, where's your home and why are you here? It kind of sounds to me like he's really trying to get at what the source of his actions are. No matter where he's at on that path, no matter what is influencing him, at the end of the day, he's still him. Moving away from his faith at times, moving away from the need for individual self-expression, yelling out of the window or closing the curtains. No matter what, his intentions aren't bad. And he knows this through his introspection. And he's urging other people to do the same so that there can be some form of intentionality in their actions, so that they're not just, following what they feel like they should be doing based on what other people are doing, and so that they are actually making, we'll call them informed decisions, but they're just informed based on what in the moment. And it's inevitable that you're going to make mistakes along the way. In this song, he says, you will fail most every day and every way. No matter what you're probably going to be running into obstacles. You're probably going to run into every obstacle that you possibly can, based on the paths that you end up taking. The focal point is not that you messed up. The focal point is not that you faced a wall and you don't know how to get past it. The point is that there is a learning opportunity in there. And it's up to you to figure out what that learning opportunity is and to capitalize on it, to learn and to find ways to continue your progression, to continue your growth. So if you take a path and you mess up somewhere along the way and, you feel bad about how you messed up and you feel bad about how you appear because of it, you feel some type of way because of how it affects your identity and how you even view yourself, you have to remember what your intentions were and why you made the decisions you made. And, it's also valuable to think about what you could do differently in the future, which is essentially what he has been doing throughout this album. He's been revisiting all these different themes and these different subjects and these different lines he said. He's looking at it through a different lens. He's looking at different perspectives that can be had in those situations. He's reframing things. So with verse 1, where he's saying, I'm starting it all over once again, did I learn a thing? He's cognizant of the fact that he didn't necessarily break the cycle. He's back at the beginning, but he's being mindful of the fact that he's not starting at the beginning from zero. He's starting with the knowledge of what he has gone through thus far, and it's up to him to find a way to use that to find a different way through this cycle, to find a different way to approach the obstacles that he has faced. And you have to forgive yourself for, whatever it is that you feel like you've done wrong in the past, because there's knowledge you could use to your advantage, and you can't let your, your perception of yourself, your perception of your past mistakes get in the way of you being able to use that knowledge. The more you shut those mistakes out, the more you hide them in your basement, the more you, the more you omit them from your memory, the less you have to work with on your path towards betterment. And yeah, that pretty much summarizes my thoughts on this song, Intentions. And if we're gonna take this song as the conclusion of the album, it sounds like he didn't necessarily manage to break the cycle, but he's understood that the cycle isn't necessarily meant to be broken. And I think that's a wonderful way to conclude this album, considering how these songs have seemingly been approached. As I've mentioned multiple times in this reaction, there's a lot of themes that are coming back up that have come up multiple times over the course of 21 Pilots' discography. There are lines that are being revisited in ways that seem very explicit. They seem very much related to things that have been said in specific songs. They really made this one feel like a journey through a cycle that has been visited and revisited over time. And in the end here, they tied it together really well, where they made it feel like this is the way life is. You're going to embark on paths, and it will feel like you're going through the same things over and over again, but you're learning things every time you go through them, and you'll be seeing things in different ways as you progress in life. And it's important to be mindful of what you're trying to accomplish. It's important to be mindful and to recognize progress, because if you don't, yes, it will feel like you're stuck in the same place and you're going through the same things over and over again. But the more you're mindful of progress, the more you're going to be understanding of the fact that you're approaching situations in different ways, and the more you're going to progress, because things that did have more of an impact on you now feel less daunting because you've been through it and you know how to approach it. If we're going to get into the lore and the mention of building walls and towers, you're leaving less room for those fears to have influence over you. They'll find their ways to you still, because there will be an obstacle somewhere along the road. But the more you're open to the progress, the more you're mindful of it, the less those walls end up getting built at the exact same places every time. And once you do reach a point where you can't progress further, you start back from scratch and you rebuild a little bit, but you're not stopping at the same place. It just kind of looks like it because you're confronted by those same fears and whatnot. And I think they really put that into perspective really well early on in the album. First track, when he said, "This is possibly the furthest we've made it," I think that summarizes really well what I'm trying to say here. So yeah, that pretty much summarizes my thoughts on Breach. Again, it feels really surreal that we're here. This story has been built up for so long. So much thought and effort and care has been put into this story. It's very evident. Where 21 Pilots go from here remains to be seen. I don't fully know what to expect. I would assume the whole Dima story comes to an end here, but as far as the subject matter goes, I don't see there being too far a departure from what we've seen, because, you know, they kind of label Blurry Face as the start of this, but you go back to Vessel, the subject matter is still very much present. You go back to Regional at Best, you go back to the self-titled album, you go back to Tyler's, demos prior to starting a band. This subject matter is very much present in his writing across time. I don't really see there being too far a departure of that in future 21 Pilots music. They might explore new things, but I think they'll come back to these topics no matter what, because it's so core to to Tyler's writing and to what crosses his mind and what he's intrigued about, what inspires him. So yeah, those are my thoughts, and I will say I'm very thankful for everything they do with this music. It's very fascinating, it's very compelling, but most importantly, I think it's just very helpful. They're touching on subjects that are not easy to touch on. They're making it relatable, they're making it something people can connect to, and something that can even help people understand themselves at times. So that's just incredible work. And it's not something that should be taken lightly. It's not something that should be taken for granted. So yeah, fantastic stuff here. And I'm very happy I got to experience it. I could have never known when I reacted to that Levitate music video years ago, back in 2018, that I would embark on this journey and connect so much with this music that has been so significant in my life as well. Their music will always mean a lot to me, and I will continue listening to their music. And to be able to experience that with you all, the viewers, has been such a pleasure. I'm very grateful for that. So I just want to end this off by saying thank you to 21 Pilots. I want to say thank you to all of you who take the time to watch these videos, who take the time to leave a comment and share your thoughts, or just to even say hi, whatever it is. I appreciate you taking the time. So yeah, thank you very much for taking the time to watch this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and yeah, have yourselves a great day. Take it easy, y'all.